Rising to an impressive 29,000 feet above sea level, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth, located in the Mahalangur-Himal subrange of the Himalayas. The summit lies on the border between Tibet and Nepal. Mount Everest is home to many unsolved mysteries that have puzzled people for years. Join us today as we reveal the 15 most enigmatic events that have occurred on Mount Everest. 15. Haunted Mountain. Mount Everest stands not only as the world's tallest peak but also as its most enigmatic. Climbers have recounted encounters with inexplicable phenomena and eerie apparitions along their ascent. Is it possible that the mountain harbors the restless spirits of those who lost their lives there? Among the chilling accounts is that of Pemba Dorje, a Sherpa who scaled Everest in 2004. He described seeing shadowy figures materialize out of thin air, their hands outstretched as if in desperate plea for aid or sustenance. Dorje believed these specters to be the lingering souls of deceased climbers, caught in a haunting purgatory between realms. He was not the only one who witnessed such things. Many others have reported hearing voices, seeing lights, or feeling cold touches on the mountain. What is the truth behind these spooky sightings? Are they just hallucinations caused by the lack of oxygen and the extreme conditions? Or are they evidence of something supernatural lurking on Everest? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. 14. The Mystery of Mallerie and Irvine. Sir Edmund Hillary is often credited as the first person to summit Everest in 1953. However, what if this achievement had already been accomplished in 1924 by two Englishmen, George Mallerie and Sandy Irvine? They were spotted through a telescope near the summit, mere 100 feet away, but never returned, leaving their fate uncertain. Mallerie, an experienced climber who had previously attempted Everest twice, played a significant role in the 1921 British reconnaissance expedition that mapped the mountain's surroundings. He was the first European to view its western slope and recognized the necessity of oxygen cylinders for high-altitude climbs. Irvine was chosen as Mallerie's partner due to his expertise in managing the oxygen equipment. They left with 5 porters and a guide. The guide stayed behind to survey the mountain, while Mallerie and Irvine went ahead. A snowstorm hit, and the guide shouted for them to come back. But he never saw them again. The next day, he found their camp empty. 2 sleeping bags were arranged in a T-shape, but there was no sign of the climbers. Mallerie's body was found in 1999, but it did not solve the mystery. His camera, which could have proved that they reached the summit, was missing. But there was one clue. Before the ascent, Mallerie had promised his wife, Ruth, that he would leave her photo on the summit. He kept the photo in his inner pocket, but it was not with him when he died. Could it be that Mallerie and Irvine were the first ones to conquer Everest? 13. The Zone of No Return. One of the most terrifying discoveries on Mount Everest is the Zone of No Return. This is a region above 8,000 m, where the air is so thin that it can barely sustain life. Most of the fatalities on the mountain happen here, as climbers struggle to breathe, even with extra oxygen. The weather is also brutal, often forcing them to turn back or face death. This is why the Zone of No Return is also known as the Death Zone, a place where only the bravest or the foolhardy dare to venture. 12. Yeti Footprints. While ascending Mount Everest, the planet's tallest and most perilous peak, picture discovering an anomaly, a colossal footprint in the snow, distinctly human-like in its toe structure, amidst the extreme cold. This eerie encounter echoes mountaineer Eric Shipton's experience in 1951, where he encountered perplexing footprints and even discovered nearby fur, suggesting a possible encounter with a bipedal giant creature. Was it the legendary Yeti, a mythical Himalayan beast? Scientists have been trying to answer this question for decades, using the latest technology and DNA analysis. But the results have been inconclusive and surprising. The fur that Shipton found did not match any known animal. It was a new and unique species, never seen before. Could this be the proof that the Yeti exists? Or is it just a mistake? We may never know for sure unless we find more evidence or catch a glimpse of the elusive creature. Until then, the mystery of the Yeti remains unsolved. 11. Strange Sounds. Mount Everest is full of stories, but one of the most terrifying ones is the mysterious sounds that keep mountaineers awake. At night, when the sun goes down, the mountain becomes a nightmare. A loud and horrifying noise echoes through the valleys, reaching far and wide. It sounds like the mountain is alive and angry. What is the source of this dreadful sound? Dave Hahn, a veteran climber who has reached the summit of Everest 15 times, was the first to report this phenomenon. He said that he saw huge chunks of snow and ice falling from the peaks, crashing into the ground. The sound was so unbearable that he could not sleep. He wondered what was causing this chaos. Scientists have finally found the answer. They say that the sound of ice is the result of the rapid temperature change in the Himalayas. When the sun sets, the glaciers around Everest start to crack and break. The ice falls from great heights, creating a deafening noise. The researchers say that this is a sign of climate change and the melting of the glaciers. This is the sound of ice, and it's scary. 10. The scariest day. Jim Davidson, a mountaineer and geologist, faced the most terrifying day of his life on Everest in 2015. He was at Camp 1 when a massive earthquake of 7.8 magnitude shook the mountain. It was the deadliest day in Everest's history, claiming 18 lives on the mountain and 9,000 more in Nepal and nearby countries. Davidson survived the quake, but he was trapped for 11 days, during which he helped other victims. Despite the trauma, Davidson, who was over 50 years old, did not give up on his dream of reaching the summit. He returned to Everest a year later, after training for up to 12 hours a day. He finally achieved his goal and stood on the top of the world, the highest point on Earth. He sent a message to his wife from there, saying, "I am standing on top of the world, the highest point on Earth." 9. Wildlife. When you think of Everest, wildlife might not come to mind, but there's a shocking revelation. The extreme conditions on the mountain, unpredictable weather, and high altitude don't seem ideal for life, yet wildlife thrives at 29,029 feet. Everest is home to Himalayan jumping spiders, resilient creatures that withstand the harsh conditions. In 1924, a British expedition even discovered unique grasshopper specimens exclusive to Everest. Larger predators like the elusive snow leopard and the Himalayan tahr, a horned mammal adapted to rocky cliffs, roam the slopes. Himalayan black bears inhabit the base's forests, sharing space with the tahr. Surprisingly, the rare red panda, similar to a binturong, resides in lower elevations, avoiding the mountain's peak. These creatures, adapted to Everest's challenges, defy expectations. 8. Massive poop. Mount Everest, often revered for its breathtaking beauty, harbors a lesser-known but significant issue. Human waste has become a pervasive problem on the mountain, posing serious environmental and health risks. Each year, the thousands who ascend Everest leave behind a staggering 12,000 pounds of waste. With no viable disposal method available, this waste accumulates, as climbers typically opt not to carry it back down, and there are no facilities in place along the ascent route for proper sanitation. The waste ends up in open pits, landfills, or dumps, contaminating the water sources and the soil. Many people get sick from drinking the polluted water, even before they reach the base camp. Some locals who host the tourists in the lower villages also suffer from the lack of waste management. They don't have the infrastructure or the resources to handle the influx of people and their poop. The mountain is slowly turning into a giant garbage dump, and it's ruining the natural beauty and the biodiversity of the region. 7. Julius Sterk. He was known as the Swiss Machine, a legend in the world of mountaineering. Julius Sterk had a dream, to climb Everest from both sides in one go, a feat never done before. He had conquered many peaks that others dared not to, such as Tenkampochi and Annapurna. He had set speed records and won awards for his skill and courage. Sterk was not only fast, but also graceful and bold. He could tackle the most difficult routes with ease, earning him the respect and admiration of his peers. But in April 2017, his life was cut short by a tragic accident on the western part of the standard route to the summit of Everest, a route he had climbed before. For a climber of his caliber, it was a cruel twist of fate. No one knows for sure what caused Sterk to lose his balance and fall more than 300 yards to his death. Maybe it was the melting snow, the slippery ice, or the lack of oxygen. Maybe it was just bad luck. His climbing partners were too far away to see what happened and could only report the sad news. It was one of the most heartbreaking losses on Everest. 6. Russians' expedition. Before Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became known for conquering Mount Everest in 1953, a clandestine Soviet expedition attempted the northern ascent in 1952. Their audacious objective, to place statues of Lenin and Stalin atop the world's highest peak. However, they vanished from their final camp at 26,000 feet, and Soviet authorities officially denied their existence. The only hint of their fate came from a lone article by Yevgeny Gibonreiter in the 1953 Alpine Journal. For decades, their disappearance remained a mystery until a startling discovery in 2017 shed light on their fate. A rescue team found 4 bodies in a tent at the 4th camp, while looking for a Slovak climber who had died of altitude sickness. But none of the official agencies had reported any missing climbers that year. Who were these 4 corpses, and how did they get there? The Nepalese Ministry of Tourism claimed that they were from a previous year's expedition, but that did not explain why they were not reported or searched for. Climbers do not vanish without a trace, and those who do not come back are always remembered or investigated. But these 4 remain anonymous and mysterious, like many others who have perished on the highest and most enigmatic mountain. 5. Rainbow Valley. You might think that Mount Everest is a place of pure white snow and ice, but there is a spot where it is full of colors. It is called the Rainbow Valley, but it is not a happy place. It is a place where hundreds of climbers have died, and their bodies have stayed there, frozen and preserved. The colors come from their jackets, which stand out against the white background. They are a grim reminder of the dangers of climbing Everest and the lives that were lost in pursuit of glory. The Rainbow Valley is part of the death zone, where the air is thin and the weather is harsh. It is a place where you can see the beauty and the horror of Everest at the same time. 4. The Tale of Maurice Wilson. In 1932, Maurice Wilson, a soldier, found healing through prayer and fasting. Inspired by his faith, he resolved to climb Everest in 1934, despite lacking mountaineering experience. Trusting in divine aid, Wilson ascended nearly 23,000 feet. However, a formidable ice wall blocked his path. Sherpas urged him to turn back, but Wilson, undeterred, wrote in his diary, "This will be my final attempt," and continued onward. Sadly, he succumbed to exhaustion in his tent just days later, never achieving his goal. 3. Marine fossils. In a shocking revelation, NASA confirmed the presence of marine fossils at the summit of Mount Everest. This eerie find has left scientists baffled and uneasy. Some argue that these findings validate the biblical flood narrative from the Book of Genesis, while others remain skeptical. However, NASA insists that these marine fossils support the scientific theory of plate tectonics. Essentially, Everest was once submerged in the ocean, and the mountain's formation is attributed to tectonic plates shifting over a staggering 100 million years. What explanation do you believe, the flood from the Bible or the claims from the scientists about Mother Nature millions of years ago? 2. The Guardian Angel. In 1975, British climbers Dougal Haston and Doug Scott reached Everest summit, but their success came too late in the day. Forced to spend the night in the death zone, where the air is thin and bitter cold, they dug a snow shelter, hoping to survive despite lacking oxygen, food, and a failing heater. In their dire situation, they felt an inexplicable presence sharing their makeshift refuge, offering guidance and encouragement. This phenomenon is not unique, other climbers have reported similar experiences on Everest. Could this presence be a guardian angel aiding them in their hour of need? What do you think about this intriguing possibility? 1. The Vanishing Snowboarder. Marco Siffredi, a skilled snowboarder, defied expectations throughout his career. In 2001, he accomplished a historic feat, becoming the first person to successfully snowboard down Everest, navigating the treacherous Norton Couloir in just 2 hours. Unsatisfied with this achievement, he aimed higher, setting his sights on the Hornbeam Couloir, an even more perilous and unexplored route. Despite warnings from Sherpas about changing weather and his own fatigue, he embarked on this daunting challenge the following year. Sadly, Marco disappeared without a trace, leaving behind unanswered questions. Sherpas speculated whether he fell into a crevasse or was swept away by an avalanche. To this day, his fate remains a mystery. Thank you for watching another episode of Just Discovery. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on more exciting content. See you next time.